Welcome to The Fix,
the new way to get your copy reviewed by two former copy chiefs.
because whether you're an aspiring copywriter or you've been in the industry for decades,
The best way to improve your work isn't to read books, blog posts, or online guides.
is to see real writing, your writing, being reviewed and improved in front of your eyes.
And that's the goal of The Fix, to bring you inside a virtual writer's room
And watch along as we review, edit and rewrite real copy.
from real writers like you. So let's get straight into this week's episode. And remember, if you like what you see here,
Please share The Fix with anyone you think would find it valuable. It is completely free.
Right, let's look at some copy. Glenn, I've got an interesting bit of copy for us to look at today. Can you see that on my screen?
Yeah, you can make it a little bit bigger if you can zoom in.
I can certainly try. That's the sort of demand that's got you known in boardrooms all over Britain.
Make it bigger.
Can you make it bigger? Is that big enough for you, sir?
I'd go a little bit further.
Right.
I can see you 140. I'd get you up to 180. There we go. That's
Right,
enough.
200% is the magic number. Right, let's get stuck in. The world's most respected authority on vegan diets has now revealed the secret of losing weight in just 3 short weeks. Trust me, you've never seen something like it before. Discover how this proven successful plant-based diet will help you drop pounds, lower cholesterol, normalize blood pressure, improve sugar levels, as well as reprogram your body. Dear reader, if you'd seen Helen Mount that day, you'd know why she needed a miracle. High cholesterol, unhealthy BMI of 42, excessive sweating, tired body, joint and back pains, low confidence and self-esteem, feel of isolation, high blood pressure made her life nearly impossible for her. Things got so bad for Helen that doing everything, even as little as it would, sorry, that's a slight typo in there, became a very big task. She needed help to stand up from her bed, let alone walking down to the sitting room. Helen tried different weight loss solutions and programs she accessed, including the mainstream medication, but nothing worked. Then Helen came across an amazing plant-based diet secret by Neil D. Barnard that changed her life forever. Within 3 short weeks of following this amazing plant-based diet secret, Helen's cholesterol and blood pressure levels dropped significantly. Even more amazing is the fact that her blood sugar level improved and metabolism boosted. And guess what? She did it without engaging in any forms of strenuous exercise or changing anything else about her lifestyle. Today, Helen Mount is 57 years old and a grandmother, looking great and in better shape than many people that are 30 years younger. Okay, I'm going to knock it on the head there because the copy goes on in that vein and there's a lot there for us to talk about. Now, there were a few little errors in that piece of copy that I tried to correct as I was reading. I'm going to stop sharing. We don't really care about that sort of thing here at The Fix. Of course, obviously it makes it easier to read if there's no errors, but we're here to talk about copy, not... In fact, I have a bugbear for people that correct grammatical errors in draft copy, especially if they don't provide any other feedback, because I just sort of think, is this all you have? You know, there are plenty of brilliant sub-editors in the world and they will correct our errors for us, so don't worry about that. Glenn, that's an interesting piece of copy. I think there's some really strong stuff in there. And I think this is one of those examples of something where we can really just try and ratchet it up a notch rather than take it apart and put it back together again. Really, it's about amplification in here. So it's always me that kicks these things off. You start with what you would do to this piece of copy and then I'll chime in here and there.
Delete it all. No, it's a really good start. It's a great base. It's interesting, which has already got you're halfway there. A lot of what we talk about is trying to pull out the right story and what have you. I think you've got the story here. The writer's done a really good job of pulling it out. I like the whole Helen thing. There's a few little bits that I'm going to recommend and I would suggest in there. But yeah, I think it's interesting and it's well put together. as you say, I think this is about amplifying it. I feel like there's going to be a lot of technical advice on this, and that's technical not in the sense of grammatical things, but just technical pieces of copy. I always used to, well, I still do in one way, but separate all kind of copy advice into emotional stuff and technical. Like if it's usually to do with the emotion kind of side of things, that there's certain things you can do with that. But then there's these technical things, and I find that anyone can kind of go away and learn them, and that's usually the easiest stuff to do, which is where this piece is, I think. So just immediately, this is straight off the hook for me. This is literally the first time I've seen this. This is why I needed it to be put to 200%, because my eyes are going terrible as I get older. My first thing was trust me, in the headline complex was a real shame to see that, because any kind of line like trust me or believe me, it immediately makes you sound like a car salesman kind of feel. We slagged off estate agents last time, we'll do car salesmen this time. We will eventually get to copywriters in that hierarchy of like untrustable salespeople.
Rightly so, I think. Right, we were right to go for the estate agents.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, try not to say trust me and stuff. The purpose of good copy is to instill in the reader that natural trust. And if you have to say trust me, it usually means you can't trust them. So I would just get rid of that straight away, and look at a better way of rephrasing that statement so that it is inherently trustful. The second technical thing is, I don't want to go back between the copy, but the headline complex, I thought the opening line was quite strong. It's fallen from mine now, which is perhaps not the best idea, but I'm trying to take on a lot of copy at once. But certainly the second part of that, the kind of subhead to that, the kicker, if you like, of all of the various ailments that you'd suffer from, I felt like that could probably be broken up a little bit into maybe like a bullet point situation, just a bit more confidence in it. So it's good saying the world's most respected authority on vegan diets has now revealed this. It could solve X, 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 X. So it's just a visual breakdown for that. Again, it's a small thing, but we talked about last time, long, wordy headlines, and you're in danger of getting to that point here. You've got a long, quite wordy headline leading the piece. As I say, I'd get rid of that trust me line. And then the second line is another very full paragraph of text, if you like, and people will laugh saying that's a paragraph, but in my world that's a paragraph. But I would just try and break that up a little bit if you can. Next technical thing is that came straight away to me. It just, that first line, dear reader, then if you had seen Helen, I think was the thing. It's a lovely way in, and so on the right track of what you'd be trying to do. But again, this is a technical point for me. But if you had seen, it felt straight away like it was a joke, not a joke, a story, but it's like that joke where you have to be there to find it funny. If someone's explained to you, and it's if you had been there, I felt immediately disconnected from that story. I weren't there. That's our northern roots coming out. But I wasn't in that situation, and therefore I'm just immediately just going, oh, well, I wasn't there, so I don't really know what it was like. What you have the liberty to do in being a copywriter, in telling these stories, in making sales piece, is connect it. Put the reader in the picture. You're allowed. There's no one stopping you from dramatizing the scene. You could go as far as to put that person in the picture, in the room with Helen as she finds out, whatever the means you do it by. Put the reader in. It's because you're just pushing them away that little bit. Then there's such good work after that, and I could see where the writer was going, but I was just immediately, my heckles were up, or whatever the strange, I don't know what a heckle is, even though I've got my dog who gets his heckles up, but I was just kind of pushed away from it. And then similarly, when we got to Neil Bernard or Bernard or Bernard, I was like, right, I've got Helen, I've got one character, and I guess it's like building characters and thing. Now you've introduced this Neil guy, and I just, for some reason, my gut said, I don't want to know about who he is yet. because now I might go Google him, I might go and try and find out who he is. You've already hidden him in the top there, the vegan expert. So I'm already kind of like, who is this vegan expert? Then if it is this Neil Barnard or Bernard, I don't know why we're saying Bernard as the usual like 50% chance of it being Bernard. But yeah, I wondered if you couldn't perhaps save that reveal till later. There is a lot of information. I think it's good stuff coming out in that opening, but there is a lot. And then to say this guy as though he's immediately credible, I do a lot of work in plant-based stuff. I write a lot of copy for plant-based stuff. It's a big area right now, and there's a lot of talk about it. I've never come across Neil Bernard or Bernard or Benoit, if it's French, maybe, I don't know. But so I just hold that back. But other than that, I was quite engaged with it. I was going with it. As I say, I could probably get a bit more down when I'm looking, but they're my initial reactions, and I would say that's pretty damn good for a piece of copy. They were the main things for me.
Yeah, I agree. I've got a what if to throw at you, and I just didn't realise you. Actually, I knew you did a little bit of stuff in the sort of plant-based world, but I didn't realise until quite recently that you did as much as you do. So maybe you will say this is not, farm. Well, you'll know the market better than I do. I'm going to avoid the temptation to go off on a tangent. So my suggestion was, I just want to talk about the headline, because I would agree with what you said. Don't never say trust me. It's kind of like the don't think of pink elephants thing. As soon as you say it, you think the opposite. Your brain it's like when somebody says, you know, if you got into somebody's car and they were a taxi driver and they said, you can trust me, don't worry, you'd think, Jesus, let me out. You know, it's apparently, so, you know, but that headline, I'll just read it aloud rather than bring it. The world's most respected authority on vegan diets has now revealed the secret of losing weight in just 3 short weeks. If that was me and I was approaching it from my background, I would say this is slightly missing a hook. And by what I mean by that is I would just maybe a knowledge gap is a better way of putting it. If you don't know what a knowledge gap is, we'll do a whole episode on that at a different time, but go and read Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. It was one of the 2 books that I would force all copywriters that we hired to read. And there's a whole section on knowledge gaps. But the short version is you have to give them some piece of the puzzle that they don't have, draws you in. It's kind of a narrative device. So I already know here, the one thing I don't know is the guy's name. So there's kind of not a hook. No one will read on to find out someone's name. Because I know it's a vegan diet and it's going to make me lose money, but not lose money, lose weight in 3 weeks. By the way, if you make that claim and then say you've never seen something like this before, I'm concerned because I think, well, I'm not interested in dieting, but I've heard that claim before. So it's kind of, well, I have heard this loads of millions of times. I'm not so sure you need the vegan, plant-based. The plant-based was hammered away in there. I would wonder, and I'll put this to you, Glenn. Would it be stronger or weaker to just talk about it as a diet of some form, a revolutionary, unique diet in some way? So folk try and make it sound a bit more unique and different. This new way of losing weight that's, you know, not this, not that, not this, blah, blah. You know, talk about what it's not, make it feel more special by that, and then reveal later on that it's vegan and plant-based? Or do you think the timing in the market right now is that people want vegan, plant-based diets?
Yeah, it's a good question to raise. My answer is it depends, as all politicians, copywriters would say. No, I think I like the idea that you go for the not angle. This is something we always used to do a lot and still do, is define something by what it's not, because it overcomes so many objections straight away and stuff like that, which is just a really good engaging way to get people into it, because you're playing a game. It's like a quiz and people love quizzes. So I do like the idea of that. That said, my first inclination was, where is this going to? Who is this going to? I know we always say it should go to as many people as possible and what have you, but there is a whole anti-diet like kind of narrative out there where all these fad diets are thought to be silly and nonsense. So you've kind of got that to think about. If you're just releasing this brand new diet, that's the new Atkins or the new Kebo or Figgy or whatever mad thing that has been invented. So there is that kind of flavor to it, depending on your market. There is then the idea that, as I always say, you either go to the product or the reader. The reader in this instance is, what are they seeing? And as you say, they're seeing the plant-based, they're seeing it everywhere, they're seeing it at COP26 and what have you. We're all being told that we're not going to be able to eat meat. It's the wrong message, and they need a copywriter to figure out how to solve this themselves. But all of that stuff is so top of mind and so present at the moment that I feel like, I don't know, I've kind of gone through, so in the past year or so, Ruth, my partner, is vegetarian, well, pescatarian, but mainly vegetarian, and leaning towards vegan. I actually believe that the definitions are wrong. I don't think we won't solve the climate crisis and all this stuff by saying you have to become vegan and stuff like this. They need to change that stuff. You can have a sausage now and again and what have you, but just don't have all meat. Don't like eat steak for breakfast on your Weetabix kind of. But that's by the by. But I think all of this discussion is so present that I think there is benefit to having that vegan plant-based element to it.
Well,
as
let's
I say,
let me throw a second what if at you then, because I can say that. Do we not need some twist on plant-based? Because to me, I'm not the target market, and I'm not from this field of writing. But I hear it and I think, vegan, he's just going to tell me to give up meat, isn't he? So what's different about this diet? And I'm not talking about tons of copy here, but I would like to dig into that, because I think it can be like, I don't quite know how to formulate the words, but it can be some strange detail about it, like, you know, squeezing lemon on every dinner you have or whatever. I don't know what the thing is. That's obviously nonsense. I've just made it up. But like some strange detail or some unique detail. I think really what I'm getting at is it needs a little bit of a twist on it to bring that uniqueness out.
I think almost you could bring both of those together. Your other suggestion of that not defining by what it's not. I think if you actually merge them together, if you could find a way to do that. And the best line would be to say, vegan where you can still eat meat or something like that, because it would just be like, what are you talking about? And that's a hook that I'm now interested in. Obviously you can't do that unless you can. I don't know, I'm not ruling anything out, but is there something like that's over here that's like the best weirdest thing you could say, putting lemon on something? You suggest probably not the most, but where is that like interesting thing that makes this, it's vegan, but that makes you go, oh right, that's defied my expectations. And it's also, if you can get it to do it, and this is what we were talking about, the not kind of defining something by what it's not, it overcomes an objection. So as soon as, I think what you're speaking to a little bit, Nick, is that, I'm looking at this, as soon as I see veganism, I'm thinking, right, I'm going to be told I can't eat meat, I'm going to have to eat corn for the rest of my life, other weird processed things are available. But whatever it is, you need to overcome that objection as well. Again, depending on who you're going for. If you're going to a list of entirely vegan buyers, you probably want something a bit weird, but you might not have so much objections. But I definitely think something a little bit interesting would help.
Perhaps it's with no corn, soya, or whatever, the obvious things. So, you know, it could be that. But whatever it is, so what that could be one way, you know, without eating a single ounce of stodgy tofu, horrible soy, or whatever. Now, that might not be true, but that's the sort of things that would be dealing with an objection of like, oh, vegan, bland, or whatever. Another direction would be, so one aspect of this market that I am a bit more familiar with was, because I'm an endurance, as you know, endurance sport junkie. So I used to run marathons, not allowed to do that anymore because Gemma won't let me. But I still do loads of running, loads of cycling. So I'm interested in these sorts of things. And there was a time where ancient grains and chia seeds was the big thing. Okay, now chia seed, they're all connected to sort of Central America, and there was a book about running to do with that. Anyway, you see it all the time in Holland and Barrett. So that would be a positive one. I'm just going to use it as an example. I don't think you could use it now. Basing your diet around the secret of the ancient grains, or whatever. If you're not doing a not this, not that, not this, then maybe you can look at what it is focused around, what it is built around. Using time-tested recipes that people in Britain have eaten for more than 5,000 years, because it's bread or whatever. I don't know what the thing is, but I think we got to dig into that thing, and you add that twist in, whatever that thing is, and all of a sudden this starts to, you've got it could lose me weight in 3 weeks, whatever. That's a decent claim. I think people have probably heard it before, but let's just drop, just leave that and assume it's a tick, because there's a reason they've seen it before, and it's because it works. If we can get that twist in there, I think we've got a stronger headline. I think we've got a much stronger headline. And then I think the other change I would make, just to move the discussion on one, is, you mentioned you'd never heard of this chap. Perhaps it was the way I've said his name, but I wouldn't say the world's most respected authority on, without giving any form of backup as to why that is. And I'll tell you why. It's an unproven claim. So the first thing you're saying to your reader is a claim that you have not backed up. Now, the reader is not dissecting copy as we are. They're not thinking, that's an unproven claim. But something somewhere in their head just goes, doesn't seem right. So if he is, I don't know how you could claim he's the most respected authority, but you need to pull out some form of specificity. So former dietitian to the stars. He worked on Harley Street for 15 years and now he does whatever that thing is. You don't have to say most respected authority. You just have to give me a detail which says he is an authority. I think the reader will settle for an authority. But I would always, I see it all the time in financial copy where it's like America's top trader. You just think, says who? Says who? You all say this, and the thing that writers do now is they make up something. America's top vegan trader. You think, well, yeah, only because you've made sure that the would not know, or that's not credibility at all. That's nonsense. But this isn't nonsense. This is just a slightly weak claim. But if somebody has genuine authority, tell me why. You would never say to somebody down the pub, he's the world's most respected authority on veganism, without saying, you'd be like, no, look, this guy used to design diets for a Tour de France team. Do you see what I mean? All of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, right. That's okay. What does he have to say? Well, he's got this diet that's built all around this thing. There's no tofu or whatever involved, and it can help you lose weight in 3 weeks. All of a sudden, we've got a bit of a sharper piece of copy, I would argue. So I'd make those changes to the headline. I think it's the kind of stuff, if you get the headline right, you just tell the reader a story as you have done, well, you're off to the races in a lot of ways. So I think it's a strong piece of copy, but I would just really work at that headline, and I would, to make a broader point, a good piece of advice I was once given was, even if the first thing you write or the first headline you come up with you think is pretty good, still force yourself beyond, because good is the enemy of great sometimes. And especially when maybe that, I'm not saying it's necessarily come easily, but it has a slight whiff of write it, looks good, feels right. Okay, let's get on with the copy. And I think sometimes as copywriters, we've got to say, all right, fine, but I want to go back to that and absolutely hammer away at it for a day or two, because if we get that right, then the whole pitch will work,
Yeah, it's such often given advice, but we can only speak from our experience, and I know it's the same for you, Nick, but that idea that you've just got to keep writing, you've got to keep cutting away and keep, like, just, I would say the same. Ironically, when I first heard you reading that to me, my joke response was going to be, it's great, now put it away and rewrite it, because I feel as though this is, I used to do a thing where I would write the headline, write the lead, and I'm literally talking about like a page of copy, like just so I've got the idea there, know where I'm going. I'd get it, and I'm quite good. So I'd write something that was passable. Like if you'd have pushed it through, you could have pushed it through, kind of thing. But what I would do is just put that to the side and write it again. Try and almost write. You don't necessarily have to do something new. You can do, and that's really good if you can, and you've got the kind of stamina to try another idea. But what I found was that by just hiding that and then trying to remember the most important bits from what I'd written the first time, the bits that keep coming through are the bits that keep staying and keep thinning. It's a long, drawn-out process, but if you do that, these bits come out, and then this starts to evolve. But again, I'm just a very practical person. I know what it's like. I stopped my fiction writing career a decade ago because someone said, "Oh, it's really good, but you should rewrite it." And I said, "F off! I can't be asked," because I wasn't ready. I wasn't in that place to be able to do that. I understand that now. I'm deleting and what have you constantly to everything I write, and I've kind of, thankfully, touch wood, finally got that in my head. As a writer generally, I've been kind of doing it inherently with copy, but yeah, try and, I think I wrote in my book saying write, delete, repeat, but it really is the best way to do it. If you can write a headline, then delete it, and then repeat what you've done, and just keep doing until the actual bits that are going to stick come back, you'll be there. I must say what Nick, you said about the quiet fisherman, it reminds me of a promo an eyebrow once wrote saying quiet fisherman, I think, and someone laughed at me for that, and I said no, because it gives the specific detail. It's not giving credibility, but we had a joke, and I think we came up with reluctant trapeze artist would be the funniest one you could ever do. But then I met a guy, a shared colleague of ours, he told us that he does do the trapeze, and he was reluctant to tell us about it. So reluctant trapeze artists do exist. But anyway, that's by the by. But yeah, anything like that you can do and add that. What might be a tip for this writer is, I feel, I've not seen the whole story because I've only seen that little excerpt of copy, but the Helen story and what's in that, I feel like you might have quite a lot of detail and depth in there that you might be able to bring back to get specificity, get stuff at the top there. You might be able to get it from elsewhere, and obviously if you can, whoever this guy is, this Barnard guy, yeah, you should be doing what Nick's suggesting there, and qualifying why he is that. If you can't do it in the kind of prose of that piece, another way of doing that might be if it's in, I'm just thinking like all eventualities, but if he's not the number one guy, if it's actually based on some kind of report in a paper or something, that's not to say you can't use that, but then you can frame that in as reported in the Daily Mail and all this kind of stuff. Obviously try not to use the Daily Mail as your main point of corroboration, but anything like that you can add to there. But yeah, it's just, I think you just need to be it's a contradiction as always, but you need to be deleting stuff to clear it down, but then you need to be adding the actual depth around it. At the moment it's okay and it's cool, but if you make it more specific, if you delete it down, get the specificity, and then you can start adding layers of depth onto that headline, I think you'll be in a good place.
Well, if we were talking about, because really what you're talking about there is how do you credentialize someone, and perhaps we should just spend 5 minutes talking about that, because I think it's an important, a really, really important aspect of what we do. Now, especially in the financial industry, especially in the medical industry, because trust is important, right? Why should I trust you with my health, my money, whatever? It's true of lots of things, but particularly these, it's maybe less true of a lawnmower. Why should I trust you? Well, we've made a lawnmower. So let's just talk about how you would credentialize someone. So really, we're trying to establish the fact that they operate from a position of authority. Why should you listen to me? It's the first question. So just the simple things to do would be, you're trying to get to the details. So if we're talking about, this would be applicable to a doctor or a financial expert, or you can apply it to your own market, however you like. But whose money have they managed / who have they treated? So is there somebody famous or themselves an authority? So if they're the Queen's doctor, we start there. That's the highest, right? Who've they treated, who've they helped? Which institutions have they worked for? So again, those institutions should have a level of authority. So I wouldn't say we're borrowing people's authority, because this story is true, but we're drawing on the authority of other institutions and people. Then you have the slightly lower levels of, you know, what awards have they won? I mean, I'm always slightly dubious about awards, just because I remember winning some as a publisher that were, you know, just advertising gumph, and it was like, well, I'm not going to put that anywhere. But if it's a proper award, you know, if they've won the Nobel Prize, pop that in there, you know. So an award would be good. Where have they appeared? So media appearances. That I consider that fairly low level. You know, my work's appeared in Forbes and Barron's magazine. Okay, great, cool. But that's true of lots of people. So while it makes you, you know, more credentialized than I am as a punter, it's perhaps not putting me up there with I worked for the World Bank, or I manage money for the Houses of Parliament, or whatever it might be. But I think those are kind of 4 things we can do. And if you dig into all of those aspects, then you're going to draw out stories. So stood in the White House and did this, worked with 3 or 4 presidents, was recruited by Barack Obama, made billions from X, whatever the thing is, let's dig into that. Now, it might not go in the headline, it's going to go somewhere, and all of that is going to be better than just saying authority on such and such, which doesn't really say anything. So I think it would be worth, and I would recommend any copywriter who's writing this sort of copy, where there's a guru, you've got to do that hard work of credentializing. And the harder you work, the more chance you will have that you'll find something genuinely unique that no other copywriter has found. There's always stuff lurking in their background where it's like, oh God, I can't believe nobody knew that. It's like, well, nobody else ever asked me. They just borrowed the same credibility that they've seen in the previous promotion, which just said award winning. And it's like, yeah, but you're telling me that you've been in space and you managed money from space. Yeah, nobody ever asked. You know, you'd be surprised by how often that sort of thing can happen. So I would just encourage anybody to dig into those things. I think if we chuck some of that, you know, legwork into this, I think you've got a really strong piece of copy. And one thing I would like to say, just to sort of take a step back, we actually received our first piece of reworked copy back from the chap who made the chairs, the stools for bad backs. So we'll look at that down the line, perhaps, and you know, maybe it'll be like a sister episode to the first review that we did. I haven't actually. He just sent it to me just as we came on air. I had a really busy week, so I haven't had a chance to look at it. But if you rework this, I'm talking directly to the writer now. If you rework this, I want to send it back in. We're happy to do a kind of follow-up episode on anything, because one of the key things about a great copywriter is always that they're able to take feedback on board, that their copy comes back stronger each time. And that's nothing to do with being a junior, nothing to do with being, you know, in any way inexperienced. It's a critical part of the job that you send your copy off to people whose opinion you trust, and then you listen when they say. Sometimes you don't take on everything, but you get a stronger draft as a result of it. This is just basic. So it's always great to see, and it's you know, I'd like that to be a little strand of what we do here, sort of follow-up shows, follow-up fixes, Glenn.
Yeah, I mean, while you're on it, and without being too twee and too sentimental, but I'm sure almost every copywriter watching this has already figured out you have to build up quite a hard skin, and or whatever the phrase is, but it really is true that you will always go through your career. And I think, if anything, we can hopefully show that we get feedback on our copy. Any piece of copy you send in, you're going to get feedback. It might be because people don't get what you've done or what have you, or think. But the thing to remember always as a copywriter is that you are writing to people, and real people that are out there in the world. And no matter how good you are, you can't predict what people are going to react to things. So any piece of like feedback, any piece of criticism, whether it's done in a positive way, a negative way, or whatever, I would just, as soon as you can in your career, learn to figure out a way that you can be angry for a minute, and you will be. You'll be like, oh, like that's like, how dare you say that? Do that. Give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 days if you're a particularly stressful person, to get angry and do that, and then find a way to just tell yourself, okay, now forget about the personal, forget that thinking they're trying to ruin me, and just think, what if they are actually trying to help? We do a lot of what ifs in the world of copy, where it's what if this could be this, and what if we change this, that. But do an ultimate what if that person was just having a natural reaction to that, and you've missed something? What if you've missed something? So the amount of times, like, stuff that comes back, I'm like, oh God, you don't get it. Why have you done this? Why are you saying this? If you change that, it changes everything. It will happen forever. But you need to very quickly be able to go, okay, what if that, why are they getting that wrong? Because no matter how intelligent or at the other end of that spectrum they might be, they are having that natural human reaction, and a percentage of your audience will have the same natural reaction. I always used to say one email back in the inbox, like, as a complaint, meant 10 people. One positive thing was 10 good people would think of it. I saw a documentary the other day, Alistair Campbell, talking about when he saw people going to a protest. He said if 5 people have turned up, that means 50 were thinking about doing so. And I was like, yes, that is exactly the thing. There were more people there. So if that person's having that reaction, why is that? It's slightly off the scale, but it's more about, yeah, you're just trying to improve all the time and take that stuff on board, but expect that it's going to come. It's not that it's wrong, it's just that it's giving you clues to how to make something better. So it really is worth learning about.
And I think that's probably a good note to end on. Of course, the one final thing I would say is that the worst piece of feedback you can receive is a big fat 0 sales. You know, it doesn't make any sound, and it might not hurt your feelings in quite the same way. There's feedback. You know, you get monetary feedback from your list, from your audience, and if it's 0, then that's the worst you get. Actually, worse than 0 is 1. I once had a promotion go out to hundreds of thousands of people, and only 1 person bought. And I still wonder, what was it about that piece of copy that appealed to nobody except that one individual? I guess we'll never know. Glenn?
The worst, I would say, is slightly the same thing, but it's to have no response, but just to someone to go, yeah,
just like, no reaction at all. At least you make them angry.
It means you've done something wrong. Like the fact, even this piece of copy is a good piece of copy that we've got this week, and they've all had good bits. And the fact that it's making us go, oh, but what is that? That means something's happening, something's connecting. The piece of copy that comes up in front of us, and we both sit here and go, like, that would be worse than going, that's brilliant or that's bad. Because if it's bad, at least it's like done something wrong where you can find it and fix it. When it just goes, like, you might get paid at the end of the day, but it's not going to work. It's not going to do anything. So it's that kind of no sale kind of thing. But you are looking, never forget to try and evoke emotions of people. So.
Let's wrap things up there. So a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to do a bonus episode later on in the week. I was supposed to be going to the States this week to a big conference. We're going to do a whole thing on generating ideas. That's now not happening. I will explain why in the show later on in the week. But we're still going to do that show based around generating ideas. So we're not going to review a piece of copy specifically, although we may bring examples, but we are going to look at where to find ideas, how to sharpen ideas up, where to look for, and what sort of process to apply. So that's going to be a bonus episode. We'll be back next week with another episode of The Fix, just like this one, to review a piece of copy. But in the meantime, there will be a bonus episode that will drop probably over the weekend. So look out for that. Glenn, thanks for recording this in the evening. We'll get into why that was in the next episode. I say we sign off.
Close to me being in pajamas recording this. So close. I almost got undressed a minute ago and then thought, oh no, I need to have
I need to.
You can't tell her this isn't a pajama.
Yeah, I mean,
but I was so close. And then I thought, should we just do it in my underpants? But,
I mean, you write as in a similar way to those broadcasters in the 1950s doing radio used to wear full formal dress like they go into Ascot. You actually write copy in a suit of armour, don't you? Just to try and add that.
I will remember it. I will dig it out and I will find it. But it was either Herman Melville or Victor Hugo. I can't remember which it was, but they used to get chained to their desk. They had their wife chain them to their desk until they finished a draft. or wearing some preposterous clothing. I will go and find out. If someone knows before I find out, it's in another thing I was writing, but I will find out. If you do know, email me and I'll tell you if you're right.
Right, let's sign off there. We'll see you all in the next episode that we have out at some point. Thank you very much and goodbye.
There we have it. We hope you got something valuable out of today's episode of The Fix.
Maybe it sparked an idea or two for your next writing project. Maybe it triggered a new headline, opening line, or story to tell your reader.
Maybe it inspired you to scrap what you have and start over. Or maybe it made you want to submit your current work in progress for a little constructive feedback.
If that's the case, then please send it to us at feedback@longcopymasterclass.com.
Or if you don't want us to review a specific piece of writing, send us a problem you're trying to solve.
Or a challenge you want input on, and we'll do our best to help.
And remember, if you like The Fix, please do share it with other writers, business owners, and marketers.